Okay, apparently we are live. So anyway, how you doing? Whoops, loud noise on the chair there. Anyway, it's a great day over here. It's Tuesday, August 26th, and it's 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. And today we're going to talk about this author that we watched the other day. We watched a little video of hers that she had made describing herself and, about this book that she wrote. Well, I have finally received my book, and I want to talk about this book because I really am excited to go ahead and bring this book to you guys. So let me set my little phone up here to make sure the music is not too loud because, I don't want guilty crime having to come in here. Hey, we can't hear you. The music's too loud. That's a constant problem over here. But anyway, so the name of the book is called Sociopath, a Memoir. Okay, here it is. Nice hardback book. So today we're just going to talk about her introduction that she has written, so you can kind of know what we're going to be seeing here. But she was so. I'm going to take this paper cover off. It's annoying, but she was so interesting the other day when we were listening to her. It really was. I was just excited to hear her because it's not very often that somebody that is a real diagnosed sociopath. I know they use a different term now, but that ever really speaks about it. She's not trying to hide it. She's just talking about it. She's just bringing it forward. And so that's really what I want to talk about today. It's not going to be very long. It's going to be kind of a short live. We're also trying to keep up with the Emmanuel case, and I'm hoping they go ahead and charge them today. I know that they only have a certain amount of time before they have to let them go, and I'm hoping they do not let that happen. I think Jake was going to be held because he has a violation anyway of his probation, and he was also had a court date because he was found to have a gun as well. So there's a few things going on right there with that, but I don't want her let out either. Now, I don't know if he was trying to lead them on a wild goose chase or not. When he took them out there to try to show them where he got, where he's taking this child and all that. I hope that's not what happened. So anyway, so I hope everybody is having a good day. It's super hot in Texas today. I will tell you that. I think my dogs are going to be quiet. They just had their dinner and their lunch. They're over there laying down sleeping. I hope we don't have any barking today. That's always so annoying. But anyway, as far as this channel goes, I know it's not for everybody. I do know that because certain things that I like to talk about, not everybody's interested in. A lot of people want to come to YouTube for news. They want to come to YouTube for educational purposes. They want to come to YouTube to hear about true crime. They want to come to YouTube to watch the trials, that kind of thing. But there are people out there covering that already, and I'm going to let them continue to do that because it's just really not what I want to do. That is why that this channel is not really talking about those things. Now, I will tell you, there's also today, and through Friday, I'm going to talk about this for a minute. There is a silent protest going on. Not silent, I want to say there's a little protest going on in Sumner County in front of the sheriff's office for Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, who, as you all know, is still missing. And of course, nobody has said anything about it. I did notice that At Night put out something today that I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if anybody has seen it or not. It seems far-fetched and silly, but who am I? I hope somebody's checking it out because even if nothing is found, that's okay too, right? But I really wish that this case would be kept real. Only be able to have facts brought out. Only things that can help find this child. All these other things that's come into this situation should have never happened. It makes the case undesirable for people to pay attention to. A lot of people don't talk about it anymore. I think it's important that you do talk about it because he needs to be found, just like Summer Wells needs to be found. I mean, there's so many, Emmanuel needs to be found. There's so many of these babies out there that need to be found. And I know there's no way that we can cover every single one that's out there. And I know that not every single case gets the same amount of attention. But I will say this, if the parents of these other children would come to the internet and find somebody they're comfortable talking to get the word started, to get it out there, they would be kept out there. They wouldn't just be, only seen on a missing poster here, there, or somewhere, but not really talked about. So if you are watching this, or you know somebody that has this and they have a missing child they want to have coverage brought to on social media, email one of them. Email Guilty of Crime. You can email me and I'll pass it on. Email Smiley at Smiley Stories World. Email Lady Freedom at Lady Freedom's Raw Narrative. Email Mom It Up. I mean, there's so many of them out there. I mean, email the word case studies. You can email Clutch Them Pearls. You can email Alex Erickson. There's so many of them out there that will bring it forward, and we'll talk about it, and we'll pass it on and share it to get your babies, or to get this missing person's information out there. It doesn't matter if they're a child, adult, whoever it is. If you want the internet to actually bring this out to the world so people will know, please just pass it on to somebody that can help you. Don't just, because they will be happy to talk about it. Let me fix my chair right quick, and then I'm going to start reading the introduction to our book. Hang on. This chair. I'm in the kitchen, or the dining room again this morning. But anyway, well, it's not morning, it's actually afternoon. So anyway, I just wanted to make a little statement about that real quick before I get into our book that we're going to look at this week. Under fair use practices, I need to put my banner on. Hell, I forgot. I got so excited about my book and getting on it at the right time and not being late. So let me put my little banner on, because we need to keep that out there under the Fair Use Act. I think it's this one. Okay, all content is available under Fair Use, Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. The FTC for social media influencers for informational and entertainment purposes only, not as professional advice. Okay, so we've made that clear. Now, so I'm going to read the introduction. Let me go back over and fix this. Let's get our comments up here so we can have comments and we can talk about it if anybody wants to make statements. So here it is. Sociopath, a memoir. Okay, her name is Patrice. I think we're going to call this Gagne, or Gagne, Gagne, and she's a PhD. So here we go. And she wrote this book for David, it says. I'm going to just read the introduction today, because I think we need to know what she's going to talk about. And this is from Oscar Wilde. Every saint has a past, and every sinner has a future. That's absolutely true. Fix my hair out of the way. So, let me put this over here. The story you're about to read is true. Well, I did my best to present the information as accurately as I remember. Some timelines have been condensed, some dialogue has been reconstructed, and some characters have been presented as composites. Okay, I'm sorry. That's not exactly what it says. Hey, let me fix that a minute. It says, as I remember it, some timelines have been condensed, some dialogue has been reconstructed, and some characters have been presented as okay, that's exactly what it says. Certain names, dates, and details have been changed to protect the identities of the innocent and the not so innocent. So here we go to the introduction of this book. All right. Her name is Patrice, and I am a sociopath. I am a passionate mother and wife. I'm an engaging therapist, and I'm extremely charming and well-liked. I have lots of friends. I am a member of a country club. I throw parties for every occasion you can imagine. I live in a nice house. I am a writer. I like to cook. I vote. I make people laugh. I have a dog and a cat, and I wait in the carpool line next to the other women with dogs and cats for her children. On the surface, I resemble almost every other average American woman. Social media confirms my existence as a happy mommy and a loving partner whose posts are borderline narcissistic. Your friends would probably describe me as nice. But guess what? I can't stand your friends. She is very brutally honest. When we watched her video the other day, she's very honest about herself, and she She doesn't try to hide this, okay? So just be prepared, all right? I'm just going to give a little trigger warning there. Just about being prepared for this lady. I am a liar. I am a thief. I am emotionally shallow. I'm mostly immune to remorse and guilt. I'm highly manipulative. I don't care what other people think. I'm not interested in morals. I'm not interested, period. Rules do not factor into my decision making. I'm capable of almost anything. Sound familiar? Absolutely does. We've seen a few of these, haven't we? Okay. If you picked up this book, I'm willing to bet it might. Yeah, she's right. You too could be one of the estimated 15 million people in America believed to be a sociopath. Or you could know one of the millions more whose personalities are thought to reside on the sociopathic spectrum. Now, I am not a sociopath, but I do like to understand what makes them tick, okay? Okay. And we're not talking strictly criminals. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, mail carriers. Sociopaths are hiding everywhere in plain sight. All you need to do is start looking. The looking started early for me. As a child, while other kids riding bikes and having play dates with friends, I was reading mysteries, true crime mostly. I was fascinated by the darkness in people. What is it that makes them evil? What is it that makes them capable? I wanted to know. Okay. So, when I stumbled across the word sociopath, I thought I had my answer. I've heard the term before, but what did it mean? What exactly is a sociopath? I assumed the dictionary would tell me, yet when I reached for my battered, 1980s Funkin' Wagnalls copy, I discovered the word wasn't there. Thinking it was a mistake, I went into my mother's office and opened another dictionary. Hers was a newer edition. Sociopath was sure to be there, except it wasn't. I saw the place where it should have been, right between sociology and thought. But the word was missing. It was as if it didn't exist, but I knew better. I'd read it in books. I'd seen it on the news. I'd heard it at school. I'd written in my journal. I knew the definition of sociopath was out there somewhere. I just had to find it. In retrospect, it all makes sense. As a doctor of psychology, I can't help but marvel at the cunning genius of the subconscious mind, why we're drawn to certain subjects and indifferent toward others. According to Freud, I always say his name wrong, it's Freud. According to Freud, nothing happens to be accident. But you don't need a PhD to know why I chose this field. You don't have to understand Freud to grasp the connection. You don't have to believe in fate to see my path. My path could never have led me anywhere else. The red flags were there from the beginning. I knew as early as 7 that something was off. I didn't care about things the way other kids did. Certain emotions, like happiness and anger, came naturally, if somewhat sporadically. But social emotions, things like guilt, empathy, remorse, and even love, did not. Most of the time, I felt nothing. So I did bad things to make nothingness go away. It was like a compulsion. Had you asked me back then, I would have described this as compulsion, as a pressure, a sort of a tension building in my head. It was like mercury slowly rising in an old-fashioned thermometer. Hang on, I gotta get better light. Hang on just a minute. It's hell when you start getting old eyes. It was like mercury rising slowly in an old-fashioned thermometer. At first, it was barely noticeable, just a blip on my otherwise peaceful cognitive radar. But over time, it would get stronger. The quickest way to relieve the pressure was to do something undeniably wrong, something I couldn't, she goes, I knew would be absolutely make everyone else feel. Hang on, guys. Let me turn my channel down. All right. The quickest way to relieve the pressure was to do something undeniably wrong, something I knew would absolutely make anyone else feel one of those emotions. I just couldn't. So that's what I did. As a child, I didn't realize there were other options. I didn't know anything about emotion or psychology. I didn't understand the human brain has evolved to function empathetically, or that the stress of living without natural access to feelings is to believe to be one of the causes of compulsive acts of violence and destructive behavior. All I knew was that I liked doing things that made me feel something. To feel anything, it was better than nothing. Now that I'm an adult, I can tell you why I behave this way. I can point to research examining the relationship between anxiety and empathy, and how stress associated with inner conflict is believed to subconsciously compel sociopaths to behave destructively. I can postulate that the pressure I experienced was almost certainly a negative reaction to my lack of feeling, that my urge to act out was most likely my brain's way of trying to jolt myself into some semblance of normal. But none of this information was easy to find. I had to hunt for it. I'm still hunting. Sociopath is a mysterious word. Its origins is based in century-old science, but it's since been misappropriated to cover all manner of sin. Oh, what a way to put this. Now listen to this. Let me say this again to you guys, because it's kind of... Sociopath is a mysterious word. Its origins is based in century-old science, but since been misappropriated to cover all manners of sin. There is no singular definition for the term, not anywhere. The word, much like the people it represents, has become something of a paradox, a shape-shifting modifier whose meaning is often assigned to vitriol and grievance. Sociopath is a word that evokes far more emotion than it does analysis. And why is that? Why does the word sociopath make people feel more than it makes them think? Ironically, it's what I wanted to know. Long before I was diagnosed. So I made it my mission to find out. This book is the very story of that mission. One that was driven to write. Okay, she says she was driven to write this book. Hang on a minute, okay, a page to turn over here. She is because the lived experiences of a sociopath deserves to be illustrated. To be clear, I don't want to minimize the severity of this disorder, nor do I want to romanticize it. Sociopath is a perilous mental condition. The symptoms, the causes, and the treatments for which need research and clinical attention. But this is precisely why I wanted to share my story, so individuals affected by sociopath might receive the help they have needed for far too long. And perhaps, more importantly, that other sociopaths might see themselves reflected in a person who has more to offer than just the darkness. Of course, not everyone will relate to my experience. It is by pure luck that I'm able to tell it. It was luck that I was born into a world where I would be afforded almost every privilege imaginable. The truth, I'm well aware, is that my life would have gone very differently if in part, and I don't like saying this word, guys, but I'm going to have to say it because it is written in the book, okay? So here we go. I'm just going to give you a little bit of trigger warning here. It is by pure luck that I'm able to tell this. It was luck that I was born into a world where I would be afforded almost every privilege imaginable. The truth, I am well aware, it is that my life would have gone very differently if my race, my class, or my gender were otherwise. It was like that, in part. It set me on a course to unpack the mystery of my condition and build a life where I have been fortunate enough to help others. Indeed, it is lucky that this book exists. And it is lucky that I have come to understand the value and reliability and representation. Most sociopaths aren't like the characters in movies. They don't resemble the serial murderers in The Killing of Eve or Dexter. They aren't similar to the one-dimensional antagonist many crime novels suggest. They're more complex than fictionalized examples presented in the Sociopath. Okay, now listen, we read the Sociopath next door. Now, I think it's very interesting that she mentions this other book, because I'm going to listen to what she says about this other book, all right? It did not end the screen. Thank goodness. Ooh, it's just gonna have a little gap in there, but that's okay too because it says it's still recording. Okay. Let me go back to where I was. Okay, so we were talking about, it's very interesting that she mentions The Sociopath Next Door, that is a book that we read. And so in her mind, in that book, let me go back to where I was. That scared me. It scared me when my computer shut down. I was like, no, please don't tell me there's some kind of weird copyright thing. No. Because that sometimes when that happens, if you don't see the strip across that says copyright, it will just shut down on you, right? And then you can get in trouble for it. And YouTube kind of gets upset over that kind of stuff. But anyway, so we're going to go back to where we were. Let me find my place in my book where we were. All right. Most sociopaths aren't like okay, that's where we were. We read that. So diagnosing them requires more than the 20 questions sociopath test in a glossy magazine, or understanding them cannot be done using a sociopath tutorials on YouTube. Think you know a sociopath? I'll bet you're right. But I'll also bet it's the last person you suspect. Contrary to popular belief, sociopaths are more than their personality markers. They are children seeking understanding. They are patients hoping for validation. They are parents looking for answers. They are human beings in need of compassion. But the system is failing them. Schools aren't recognizing them. Professionals aren't treating them. They quite literally have nowhere to go for help. Representation matters. I offer my story because it illustrates the truth not one wants to admit. The darkness is where you least expect it. I am a criminal without a record. I am a master of disguise. I've never been caught. Oh, what is this doing? Okay, now there's something in the middle. Hang on, guys. This little thing popped up. Let me give you that. No. Okay. I don't know, man. This computer is just going crazy today. That's where we were. I have never been caught. I've rarely been sorry. I am friendly. I am responsible. And I am invisible. I blend right in. I am the 21st century sociopath. And I have written this book because I know I am not alone. Now that's a very nice introduction. It's very interesting, isn't it? Let's look at part 1 for a minute, see what we got here. In part 1, she's going to talk about being an honest girl, okay? I think I could probably read this chapter. Let's go ahead and read chapter 1 right now. It's just a very interesting story. I wonder if I should just go find. I should have went out and found something about sociopaths on YouTube, but we've seen so many of those before. But I do have I think I have a whole bunch of them. Let me see something right quick, guys. Let's go ahead and find. Hang on, we're going to go out to YouTube and we're going to get us a little video to talk about, okay? So hang on a minute. It only takes a second to pull this kind of thing up, and then we can just put it on the screen. Yep, here we go. And I don't want to see my Sociopath Next Door videos, but I do want to see somebody else's sociopath information. So let's see. How about sociopath versus the narcissist? Because I thought they all had some of the same traits, but we could be wrong. What's the difference? How about that? We'll watch this one right here. Hang on a second. Now let me share my screen just a second. All right. All right, now share a screen. So this is going to be sociopath.
What is sociopathy? What is commonly known as sociopath is actually a person with antisocial personality disorder, ASPD. Sociopathy is not a medical term and is most commonly referred to by its associated condition. People with ASPD tend to have frequent issues following rules and laws, have a lack of empathy towards others, and act impulsively. According to the Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic, some other signs of ASPD include lack of remorse after hurting another person, reckless behavior, chaotic and abusive relationships, manipulative behavior.
My name is Patrick Agnew. I have a doctorate in clinical psychology, and I am a diagnosed sociopath. This is everything I'm authorized to tell you. People like to believe that sociopaths are one-dimensional serial killers, because in a way, if every sociopath looks like that, then sociopaths would be easy to spot. You won't have to worry whether you're married to one or living next door to one or having birthed one. When the truth is, most sociopaths resemble normal people. It's a really complex and layered question because the term sociopath is no longer used clinically. But if you're looking at it through that lens, that the classic sociopath is someone who struggles to understand the learned social emotions. So everyone has like a sort of hardwired set of emotions. These are the inherent emotions: happiness, sadness, etc. But there is another set of emotions that are learned. These are things like empathy, compassion, shame, remorse. We are taught these things mostly through modeling by caregivers. Sociopaths struggle to learn those emotions. There's been a lot of talk about the sociopathic mask and how sociopaths mask in order to charm and commit harm, when in reality, we mask for the same reasons that everyone else masks. It's easier to get through life if you as friendly perceiving, which isn't to say that I would be mean or that I would want to harm you or anyone in this studio, but I would probably be blinking less. I wouldn't be as engaging. But again, I think this is very relatable. I was very problematic for teachers in elementary school in particular, because whereas at home, I worked pretty hard to fly under the radar and not cause any problems, I didn't do that so much at school. I got in trouble a lot. As a child, I felt this emotional claustrophobia. And the only way that I was able to neutralize that claustrophobia was to act out in a way that was destructive. I don't know why, I just knew, do this and you'll feel better. When I was in elementary school in San Francisco, there was a little girl that I was friends with, and I remember the day that I attacked this child. I had been feeling tremendous pressure. And on this particular day, I had been engaging in small acts of deviance in order to sort of neutralize the pressure, and it hadn't been working. And there was a child who was standing next to me and provoking me in a way that shouldn't have mattered. And I just remember feeling the impulse to hurt her. And so I grabbed a pencil out of my backpack and I stabbed her with it. And I knew that it was wrong. But again, I understood this intellectually, not emotionally. But what was the most troublesome for me was when I stabbed this child, not only did the pressure I was experiencing at the time go away, but it was replaced by a type of euphoria. It was almost like being high. I did it, and then I walked away, and I walked home, and it just felt so good. But it wasn't the harming of another child that felt good. It was the euphoria that it elicited. That sounds crazy in the sense that harming someone else made me feel good. But it wasn't the act of.
Oh, am I on the wrong one? Well, I have a lot open. I can't.
Harming another child.
Okay, hang on. Why is it still talking? Oh, that's because it's open here. Okay, here we go. Now we'll come back over here. Okay, so remember what she just said right there about it was the act of pressure and that she felt some kind of immediate relief of this pressure. Remember that? So I wonder, how they always talk about people getting this rush when they talk about these serial killers or these people repeating these acts because they want to get this rush. I mean, is it the same thing? Because I think it is. I think that because she's talking about how not all sociopaths are serial killers, okay, but are all do they all have narcissistic tendencies? I don't know. I think so. But again, I'm not a doctor. I just like to talk about this, and I just want to understand these people. So we're going to go ahead and start reading the first chapter, and it's called Honest Girl. And anything you want to make, if you want to come on in to chat and say something, please do. It's okay. I know this is not for everybody. So hang on a second. There's like my little baby dog went out the back door. My baby dog doesn't feel good today. Jack is kind of limping on his leg now, which is very upsetting, But I just feel like these little baby dogs that I thought would be so fun to have are just a big money pit. Every time I turn around, we're at the vet's office. So there's something about Frenchies. Anyway, so let's proceed on with this. So I'm going to try to get through this first chapter, okay? Whenever I ask my mother if she remembers the time in second grade when I stabbed a kid in the head with a pencil, her answer is the same. Well, vaguely. She says vaguely. And I believe her. Because so much about my early childhood is vague. Some things I remember with absolute clarity, like the smell of the trees at Redwood National Park and our house on the hill near downtown San Francisco. God, I love that house. I can still remember the 43 steps from the ground floor to my room on the 5th floor, and the chairs in the dining room. I would climb these chairs to steal the crystals from the chandelier. Other things, however, aren't so clear. Okay? Like the first time I snuck into my neighbor's house when they weren't home, or when I got up to get the locket with the L inscribed on it. The locket contains 2 black and white photos I'd never bothered to remove. They're still there. I still can't help staring at them. Who are these people? Where did they come from? I wish I knew. I guess it's possible I found the locket on the street, but it's far more likely that I had stolen. Oh boy, she admits. She is brutally honest, and she does say she admits to what she's done. All right. Okay. Boy. I started stealing before I could talk. At least I think I did. I don't remember the first time I took something. Just that by the time I was 6 or 7, I had an entire box full of things that I had stolen in my closet. Somewhere in the archives of People magazine, there is a photo of Ringo Starr holding me as a toddler. We're standing in the backyard not far from my birthplace in Los Angeles, where my father was an executive in the music business. And I'm literally stealing the glasses off his face. Certainly, I was not the first child to ever play with grown-ups' glasses. But based on the spectacles currently perched on my bookshelf, I'm pretty sure I was the only one with a pair from a Beatle. That's kind of funny, isn't it? It's not funny because she stole them, but it is funny. To be clear, I wasn't a kleptomaniac. A kleptomaniac is a person with a persistent and irresistible urge to take things that don't belong to them. I suffer from a different type of urge, a compulsion, brought about by the discomfort of apathy, the nearly indescribable absence of common social emotions like shame or empathy. But of course, I didn't understand any of this back then. All I knew was that I didn't feel things the way other kids did. I didn't feel guilt when I lied. I didn't feel compassion when classmates got hurt. For the most part, I felt nothing. And I didn't like the way that nothing felt. So I did things to replace the nothingness with something. My conscious reactions to apathy started trivial. Stealing wasn't something I necessarily wanted to do. It just happened to be the easiest way to stop the tension. The first time I made the connection was first grade, sitting behind a girl named Clancy. The pressure had been building for days. Without knowing exactly why, I was so overcome with frustration, and I had the urge to do something violent. I wanted to stand up and flip over my desk. I imagined running to the heavy steel door that opened to the playground and just slamming my fingers in the hinges. For a minute, I thought I might actually do it. But then I thought, Clancy's beret. Okay, this is interesting. Okay. She had 2 in her hair, pink bows on either side. The one on the left had slipped down a little. Take it, my thoughts commanded, suddenly, and you'll feel better. The idea seemed so strange. Nancy was my classmate. I liked her, and I certainly didn't want to steal from her. but I wanted my brain to stop pulsing. Some part of it knew that it would help. So carefully, I reached forward and unclipped the bow. The pink clip was hardly attached. Without my help, it probably would have fallen out on its own. Listen to her make an excuse. It would have fallen out on its own, so it was okay that she did that, right? Okay. Wow. But they always make excuses for whatever it is they're doing. But they don't feel bad about it. Except it didn't. With it in my hand, I felt better, as if some of the air had been released from an overinflated balloon. The pressure had evaporated. I didn't know why, but I didn't care. I found a solution. It was a relief. These early acts of deviance are encoded in my mind like GPS coordinates, plotting a course toward awareness. Even now, I can recall where I came across most of the things that didn't belong to me as a child. But I can't explain the locket or the L. For the life of me, I don't remember where I got it. I do recall the day my mother found it in my room and demanded to know why I had it. Patrick, you absolutely must tell me where you got this. With her mother saying this. We were standing next to my bed. One of the pillow shams was crooked against the headboard, and I was consumed with the urge to straighten it, but my mom was not letting up. Look at me, she said, grabbing my shoulders. Somewhere out there, a person is missing this locket. They are missing it right now, and they're so sad they can't find it. Think about how sad that person must be. She's already told us she can't feel that, so. I shut my eyes, and she goes, sweetheart, listen to me. Again, nothing. Mom paused. I'm not sure what to do next. She took a deep breath and asked, have you done this before? I nodded and pointed to the closet, where I showed her my stash of contraband. Together, we went through the box. I explained what everything was and where it had come from. Once the box was empty, she stood and said, we're going to return every item to its rightful owner, which was fine with me. I mean, I didn't fear any consequences, and I didn't suffer from remorse. Two more things I'd already figured out weren't normal. Returning the stuff actually served my purpose. The box was full, and emptying it would give me fresh space to store things I had yet not steal. So I guess she just had this compulsion to always do these things. Isn't that wild? I mean, I can't even relate to that because, and I guess a lot of people can because we feel things, okay? So we can't relate to what she's talking about, which is so strange, right? Well, so she goes, after that, she'd gone through everything. So she thought the pressure in her head, the sense that she needed to do bad things sometimes. I don't know. I said it was true. I had no idea what prompted these sensations. Well, are you sorry, she asked? Yes, I said. Also true, I was sorry. But I was sorry I had to stop fantasizing about violence, not because I hadn't hurt anyone. My mom seemed to want to put the matter behind us. I love you so much, sweetheart, she said. I don't know why you took all of these things, but I want you to promise that if you ever do something like this again, you'll tell me. I nodded. My mom was the best. I loved her so much that it was easy to keep that promise. At least it was at first. We never did find the owners of the locket, but over the years, I got better at imagining what it must have felt like once they realized it was gone. It's probably a lot like how I would feel now if somebody took something from me, only I don't know for sure. Empathy, like remorse, never came naturally to me. I was raised in the Baptist church. I knew we were supposed to feel bad about committing sins. My teachers talked about it, honor systems, and something called shame. But I didn't understand why those things mattered. I got the concept of intelligently, but they weren't things I felt. So she understood the concept of it, but she's telling you at a very young age, she didn't feel that. I wonder how many other children are in tune with themselves like that. I wonder how many other children, if you put, in the book, The Sociopath Next Door, we learned that 1 in 25 people would actually be a sociopath, right? So that would be 1 in 25 children in a classroom. I just wonder At what age do they realize? He's claiming she was 7 years old when she wrote. As one can imagine, my inability to grasp core emotional skills made the process of making and keeping friends somewhat of a challenge. It wasn't that I was mean or anything. I was just simply different, and others didn't always appreciate my unique attributes. It was early autumn, and I just turned 7. I'd been invited, along with all the girls from class, to a friend's Sunday club. Her name was Colette, and she lived a few blocks away from us. I arrived at her house wearing my favorite pink and yellow skirt. It was her birthday, and I insisted on carrying her present, the convertible Barbie car wrapped in the iridescent. Mom gave me a big hug when she dropped me off. She was anxious about our first night apart. Now, don't you worry, she said, handing me my backpack and a Holy Hobby sleeping bag. If you need to come home, you can. I remember being a kid and we could go on some places. My parents would always say, you want me to come pick you up? Hey, Magic Star, so good to see you there. I didn't notice you. I was just reading along. Because I didn't care. So I remember being a child and we dropped off. My mom would say, do not hesitate to call me. I don't care if it's 3 o'clock in the morning. If you want to come home, I'll come and get you. And now it's the same thing that I raised my children the same way. I didn't care what time of the day it was. If you want me to come get you, I would come get you. We'll go back to it. She goes, but I wasn't worried. In fact, I was excited. A whole night in another place, I couldn't wait to get to party. The party was fun. We gorged on pizza, cake, and ice cream before changing into our pajamas. We had a dance party in the living room and played games in the yard. But around bedtime, Colette's mom announced it was quiet time. She started the movie in the living room, and all of us pulled our sleeping bags into the front room. And one by one, the girls fell asleep. When the movie ended, I was the only one awake. And in the dark, I was again acutely aware of my lack of feeling. I looked at my motionless friend. She was unsettling, even with her eyes closed. I sensed my mounting tension and response to thinking and felt the urge to hit the girl next to me as hard as I could. She goes, that's weird, I thought. I didn't want to hurt her, but at the same time, I knew it would make me relax. Shaking my head against the I itched out of my sleeping bag to get away from her. Then I got up again and began to roam around the house. Colette had a baby brother named Jake. The second floor nursery had a balcony overlooking the street. I quietly climbed into the stairs and let myself into the room. He was asleep, and I stared at him. He looked so tiny in his crib, much smaller than my little sleeping. A blanket was pulled up in the corner. I picked it up and adjusted it around his tiny frame. Then I turned my attention to the balcony doors. Uh-oh. You can kind of guess what she's about to do, right? The deadbolt made a tiny click as I opened the doors and stepped out into the darkness. But from there, I could see most of the city. I stood on my tippy toes and leaned forward to look up, eyeing the intersection of the next block. I recognized the street name, and I knew it was one over from mine. I bet it would take just a few minutes to walk home. Okay, I knew I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't like being the only one awake, and I really didn't like being so unrestricted. At home, I always had my mom to keep me in line. But here, who would stop me? And from what? I was uneasy. It was dark when I walked out the front door. I loved it. It made me feel invisible, and the pressure I'd been sensing instantly evaporated. I stepped onto the sidewalk and began to trek home, staring at the houses I saw. What were the people like who lived in these houses? What were they doing? I wished I could find out. I wished I was invisible so I could watch them all day. The air was crisp and the fog blanketed the streets as I made my way home. Witching weather, my mother liked to call it, and at the intersection I pulled my sleeping bag up from my backpack and wrapped it around me like a huge scarf. The distance was longer than I expected, but I didn't mind. I looked across the street and noticed a house with its garage door open. What's inside, I wondered. And then it occurred to me, I could just go find out. And the garage door's open. I marveled at the change in the atmosphere as I stepped off the curb. The rules. It seemed, but disappeared along with the daylight. In the darkness, with everyone else asleep, there was no restriction. I could do anything. I could go anywhere. At Colette's house, that idea had made me uncomfortable. But now that the same potential had the opposite effect, I felt powerful and in control. I wondered why there was a difference. The moonlight illuminated on my path, tumbling my way toward the open door. Stepping inside, I crossed through the door. A beige station wagon was parked on the side, leaving room for a vast assortment of toys and knickknacks. Children must live here, I thought. My ever questioning this executive scapegoat. I felt like a sandpaper. Resisting the urge to take it, I get into the car and opened the rear passenger door. A hot glow from the dome light brightened the garage, so I jumped inside, pulling the door closed behind me. I paused and waited for something to happen. The silence inside that vehicle was inevitable, but I liked it. It reminded me of the movie Superman and Christopher Reeve's visit to the Fortress of Solitude. It's like my chamber, I whispered, imagining myself getting stronger with each passing second. I'm a pretty good writer myself. Outside, a flash of movement caught my eye, and I saw a car driving by. It was a dark sedan, and my eyes narrowed as I watched it. "What are you doing here?" I decided the car was an enemy. Quickly opening the door, I tiptoed outside just in time to see the sedan round the corner. General Zod, I thought definitely. Then I ran back across the street to where I'd left my things. As I bent down to collect them, I caught the familiar scent of laundry detergent and decided it was time to go home. I hugged the side of the walkway closest to the trees. Picking up speed, I found myself happily zigzagging between the safety and the shadows. How could anyone be afraid of the night? I wondered happily as I walked. It's the best part of the day. By that time, I had reached the base of the hill to my house. I was exhausted. I trudged up the steep incline, pulling the backpack behind me like a sled. My door was open, and I was able to enter the house without knocking. I walked quietly up the stairs to my room, trying not to wake my parents. A moment after I crawled into bed, my mother barged through that door. "Please," she yelled, slamming on the light. "What are you doing here?" Her reaction startled me, and I just began to cry. Hoping she'd understand, I explained everything. But the only seemed to make things worse. She began crying too, her eyes wide with tears that spilled down her cheeks. "Sweetheart," she said finally, pulling me close. "You must never ever do something like that again. What if something happened? What if you couldn't get home?" I nodded in agreement. Well, I wasn't generally troubled by either of the concerns. More than anything, I was confused, she said. Mom had said I could come home anytime. But why was she so upset? "Because I meant I'd come get you," she explained. "Promise me you'll never do something like this again." Well, I promised, but I wouldn't have the opportunity to prove it for several years. Parents. Yes. Okay. Patience. Wait a minute. God dang it. Let me take a drink. My mouth's kind of dry here. I'm just saying it word. I'm saying the wrong word, of course. I need to get my damn glasses redone. Really, I'm telling you. Parents, I soon discovered, typically frowned on playmates who came over for slumber parties only to get listless in the middle of the night and decide to walk home on their own. Colette's mom was not happy when she discovered what I had done, and made no secret of her disdain. Once she had told other parents about my disappearing act, party invitations stopped coming. But it wasn't just the parents who raised theory. Other kids also said that something about me was wrong. "You're weird," said it. It's one of my few memories of first grade. It was a child-sized dollhouse in the corner of the room, and a bunch of us were playing house. David was a classmate of mine. She was friendly and fair, and everyone liked her. It was one of the many reasons why she naturally assumed the position of mom anytime we played house. I, however, preferred to be the different one. "I called Butler," I said. Abel looked at me confused. Butlers, from what I gathered watching television, have the best job in the world. You could discipline for extended length of time without explanation. They had unrestricted access to everyone's coats and bags. No one ever questioned their actions. They could walk into a room and not be expected to interact with anyone. They could eavesdrop. It was an ideal profession. At least it was to me. But my explanation didn't resonate with everyone. But she thinks being a butler. Why are you so weird, Ava asked. She hadn't said it to be nasty. It was more of a statement of fact, a question I knew I didn't really need to answer. But when I looked at her, I noticed the most peculiar expressions on her face, one I hadn't seen before. It was very specific look, equal parts of confusion and fear. She wasn't alone. The other kids were staring at me the same way. It made me weary, as if they could see something about me that I couldn't. Eager to change the subject, I smiled and bowed. "Forgive me, madame," I said in my most butler-like voice. "But if I'm acting weird, it's only because someone has murdered the cook." It was a distraction I'd already perfected. Talk with a hint of humor. Everyone laughed and screamed at the gate, and they became thrilling, albeit gruesome. A gruesome tone and my weirdness faded into the background. But this I knew was only a temporary thing. My penchant for thievery and disappearing aside, something about me made other kids uncomfortable. I knew it. They knew it. And though we could peacefully coexist as classmates, I was rarely included in after-school activities. Not that I minded. I loved being alone. But after a while, my mother grew concerned. "I don't like it that you spend so much time by yourself," she said. It was Saturday afternoon, and she came upstairs to check on me after several hours of alone time. "It's okay, Mommy," I said. "I like it." "Aw." Mom frowned and sat on my bed, pulling a stuffed raccoon absently mildly into her lap. "I just think it might be good for you to have some friends over." And then she paused. "You want me to invite anyone from school? What about Ava?" I shrugged and looked at the window. I've been trying to determine how many bed sheets I needed to knot together to make a rope long enough to reach the ground from my room on that top floor. Earlier in the week, I'd seen something called emergency ladders, and this was the school's catalog, and I'd become fixated on the idea of making my own rope. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it, just that I knew I had to have it. Only now, Mom was right. "I don't know," I said. Ava's nice. Maybe we can invite her over for next month." Right? Mom tossed the raccoon aside. "Well, we're having the Goodmans over for dinner," she said. "So tonight, I guess you'll play with the girls." The Goodmans lived on our block. They were friends of my parents. Their two daughters were neighborhood terrors, and I hated them. Sydney was a bully, and Tina was a thief. They were constantly in trouble, usually because of something Sid instigated, and I found their behavior infuriating. Granted, I was in no position to judge, but at the time, I justified my repulsion. Perspective, it all came down to intent. Whereas my actions might have sometimes been questionable, I wasn't breaking rules because I enjoyed it. I acted out because I felt like I had no choice. It was a means of self-preservation, of keeping worse things from happening. The Goodman's actions, on the other hand, were reckless, attention-seeking, and mean. The bad things they liked to do served no purpose other than cruelty for cruelty's sake. My sister, Carlo, was 4 years younger than me and still a toddler. We shared the top floor at the house with our nanny and a lovely woman from El Salvador named Lee. Nanny Lee stayed in the room next to ours. When the Goodmans visited, she'd typically be in Harlow's room putting her to bed, and rarely did a visit pass without Sid trying to do something heinous to them. "Let's sneak into Lee's room and dump water in the bed," Sid hissed. Later that night, while she was in my room, I was already annoyed. "That's dumb," I said. "He's going to know it was us, and then what? What do you get out of it? We'll tell our parents, and then we'll just have to go home." The Beretta I stole from Clancy was attached to one of my braids. I began to tug at it. To tug at the clasp as I realized maybe the water dump isn't the worst idea of all. Oh no, And you kind of see what's going to happen here, right? It had cracked open the door and was peeking outside. Yeah, well, it's too late anyway, because she's already in her room. She must have gotten Harlow to sleep. She rolled around. Let's wake her up. Tina looked up from the magazine and snorted approval. I was perplexed. Why? Because then Lee will have to put her back to sleep, and every time she does, we'll wake her up over and over. It's so funny. It didn't sound funny to me. For starters, no one was messing with my sister. I wasn't sure how far it was between the 5th and the 4th floors, but I was prepared to accidentally have both Sid and her sister down the stairs if needed. Oh my gosh. So she had feelings of hurting other people as a way to shut them up. That's kind of what it sounds like, Wow. Anyway, she goes, as for Nancy Lee, I didn't want her coming out of her room. I knew that the second my sister went to sleep, Lee would call her family and talk for hours. That meant I could listen to my Blondie records undisturbed. At that time, I developed something of a fixation for Debbie Harry. I was transfixed by anything and everything Blondie, especially Parallel Lines. On the album cover, Debbie Harry stands in a white dress with her hands on her hips and a fierce look on her face. I love that picture, and I wanted to look just like her. So much so that if you look in my mother's photo album, you'll find more than a year's worth of pictures in which I am clearly attempting to recreate this iconic scene. Debbie Harry wasn't smiling in her album cover, so I decided I wouldn't either. For anything. Unfortunately, following a spectacularly disastrous episode with a photographer that resulted in me kicking over a tripod, Mom decided that Debbie Harry was a bad influence and threw away all my Blondie albums. That I fished them out of the dumpster and listened to them at night. I hadn't yet registered with Nancy Lee. I decided to switch tactics. How about this? I ordered let's sneak into the backyard and spy on our parents through the window. I could tell Sid was irritated. My plan didn't involve torturing anyone and was therefore comparatively lackluster. All the same, the thought of eavesdropping on our parents was more exciting than even she could resist. She seemed thrilled. After so many negotiations, Sid agreed. Into the backyard, we crept single file past Nancy Lee's room. Eventually made it all the way downstairs to the laundry room. I unlocked the door that opened the slide to the side of the house. The California air was both chilly and sweet. Okay, I said, you two go this way, and I'll meet you on the back deck. They looked nervous. The yard was not only pitch black, but also essentially non-existent. As most of the houses were supported by wooden stilts that plunged into 100 feet down the hill. One ill-placed step, and they'd tumble down to the bottom. You're not scared, right? I put on my most concerned face. They responded quickly. Get me a Coke. And then disappeared along the side of the house with Sid reluctantly following. As soon as they were out of sight, I stepped back into the house and locked the door. Then I crept upstairs into my room and turned off the lights and got into my bed. Turned on my record player. I was calm and quiet, just satisfied with myself. I knew I should have felt bad about what I'd done, except I didn't. I got to listen to Blondie uninterrupted. It was nearly an hour before I saw my mother's shadow on the walls of the stairwell. I threw up my headphones to the floor, and I managed to pull the volume just before she walked through the door. Patrick, she asked, did you lock Sid and Tina outside? Yeah, I replied honestly. I could tell my mom wasn't sure what to say next. Well, the Goodwins are very upset, she said, as she sat on the bed next to me. They got lost in the dark and didn't know how to get back inside. They could have gotten hurt, honey. She paused and added, I don't think they're ever going to come back over here. That didn't really bother her because she did not like those kids anyway. She'd already said she didn't want to hang out with them. Great, I replied, thrilled. Tina always takes a bath in my tub with all the lights off, which is crazy. And Sid always sneaks food upstairs and spills it everywhere. They're both really annoying. My mother shook her head and sighed. Well, thank you for telling me the truth, sweetheart. She kissed me the top of my head. but you're grounded, not going outside, and no television for a week. I nodded, quietly accepting this fate. It was a small price to pay. Mom, she got up and had made it to the stairs before. I called out, Mommy. She turned around and came back to my room. I took a deep breath. I got the Blondie records out of the trash after you threw them away and listened to them every night, even though I know I'm not supposed to. Mom stood there, a glamorous shape backlit against the lights from the hall. You have them? Here? In your room? I nodded. Mom walked over to my record player, her little wide, still spun silent. She looked at me and shook her head. Then one by one, she collected the albums and tucked them under her arm before kissing me one more time. She pushed the hair off my face and across my forehead. Thank you for telling me, my honest girl, she said. Now good night. Mom walked out of my room and down the stairs as I rolled over and nestled deep into my pillow. I rubbed my feet together underneath the blankets like a cricket. I felt safe and content. The record player continued to run, and the repetitive sound was soothing. I watched the empty turntable spin around and around. And for a second, I questioned the wisdom of giving up my secret and losing my Blondie record. Nevertheless, I found myself smiling as I drifted off to sleep. Okay, that was chapter 1. Okay, so I've been on here an hour and 3 minutes, so we'll go to chapter 2 tomorrow. I'll do chapter 2 tomorrow. But so far, I really am enjoying her writing style. She's pretty interesting. So anyway, I'm going to close this off. We'll do chapter 2 tomorrow. Glad you could stop by. If you need to see this on replay, go ahead and do so. But I just think that the information and about her life is very, it's just kind of comforting to know that although she has this problem, she can be almost normal. But she explains it in her video that she learned how to mask it and how to fit in to society as a normal person. So I think they all probably mask that, But anyway, I'm going to let y'all go for the day. Have a good afternoon. Be safe out there. Hug your babies. Don't go to bed upset with anybody. Please don't. And also, please go check out the channels that we'd like to watch. Let's get Making Freedom. Let's see Riley Stories World. Go see the board case studies. Go see Clutch Them Pearls. There's just so many of them. I need to learn how to use StreamYard's. There's a section in here where you can put the channels that you like, and you can post them over here in your chat so other people with links so other people can go check them out. And anyway, I'm going to let y'all go. Have a good evening. Bye. Mm-hmm.